Damn it.
Oh, thank God.
G'day folks and welcome back to What Lies in the Sunday Telegraph for the 15th of March 2020 in what feels a little bit like the end of days, because what the world needs now is an old bloke with a bit of a Harry Potter look going on reading a newspaper. So we are armed with a copy of the Sunday Telegraph, the power of critical thinking, and a time when I suspect a number of people are looking for long-form video with which to distract themselves. It's a golden age for content creators, let me tell you. Before we get into the paper, I just would note that it's quite weird in this time that events are moving so fast. People can go into a meeting to try and figure out what they're going to do, and the facts on the ground can change 3 or 4 times while that meeting's going on, making the whole thing useless. And the relatively low levels that I exist, if that's a problem, spare some thought for the ministers trying, we'll assume, their best to deal with it, although, you know, our government is not staffed by the best that Australia has to offer, and I don't think anyone's ever accused it of that. It's a tough gig right now, that's what I'm saying. Okay, newspaper, coronavirus, just the facts, or your family's questions answered, because it's the family questions that you're worried about, isn't it? Health, travel, food, business, schools, and events. I assume they're saying they're all affected, not that they're going to tell us where the good ones are, as is their want. Inside Stella Mag, Phoebe Burgess tells us I don't have the luxury of falling apart. She does look stunning, though. Look at that. Good for her. Outbreak, the fallout, Anzac Vivid shut down. Yeah, getting all the oldies to congregate. Not a good idea this time. So, Sydney's Vivid Festival is cancelled, and Anzac marches around the country and at Gallipoli are set to be replaced with minor services to stop the spread of the coronavirus. I don't think I want to be travelling to Turkey right now. Not that I've heard anything's particularly bad in Turkey, just at any moment your travel plans could get cancelled, and travel insurance is not going to pick this one up. Vivid attracts more than 2 million visitors, and New South Wales Tourism Minister Stuart Ayres said they had no choice but to call it off. A formal ruling on Anzac Day will be announced after meetings tomorrow, but RSL officials don't want to put vulnerable diggers at greater risk. Premier Berejiklian will hold her first War Cabinet meeting today to consider a stimulus package for small businesses to keep people in jobs. Last night there were 112 cases. I've seen some people who know how to look at statistics say we're entering the exponential phase now. And spare a thought for people who've got the virus, because obviously there is a chance they could die. But also, please do spare a thought for everyone, and it's about a third of the economy, who are on casual wages, which are mostly just not going to have a source of income for 3 weeks, and pitiful government support for them. Mick's Picks, the editor's best. Mick Carroll has chosen the best things in his newspaper. Number 1 is Delicious Month Out. Enjoy some great food offers in Potts Point. Don't think he's reading the room there. Number 2, the Stella magazine also gives us 25 years after releasing her signature album, Jagged Little Pill, singer Alanis Morissette talks about the pain that came with her incredible success. We also have The Secret World of Hillsong. We take a look behind the curtains of the megachurch, the teachings, the celebrity followers, and the incredible handbook on how to raise millions of dollars. Getting Flirty with Harry, the new Prince of Pop, is all grown up, is finally free to be himself. Doesn't quite... The tone seems a bit wrong, doesn't it? Honey, I Shrunk Our Holiday. Great short stays and quick breaks for your family. The ones that aren't ravaged by plague. Number 6, The Revengers, the footy feuds that will ignite the NRL season 2020. If it happens. Right, the New South Wales beach, safe from sharks and other incredible secrets of the ocean's most powerful predator. Leopard seals, sperm whales, giant squid. Sharks are scary, don't get me wrong. There are, I think sperm whales are the largest, and with that, I would say most powerful predator in the ocean. But leopard seals are pretty terrifying too. Right, hit and run vehicle search. Police are trying to track down the driver of a four-wheel drive seen travelling through Sydney's northern beaches moments after an adored father was hit and killed. Right, some adjectives there. Nicole is going to bring her girls home. Family is heading to the Highlands. Right, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have enrolled daughters Sunday in Faith in a prestigious Southern Highlands girls' school ahead of their plan to move home later this year. Kidman is relocating to Australia to be closer to her ailing mum. Okay, interesting. Down here on page 3, we've got a large ad for The Killers, one of my favourite bands. They're imploding the Mirage Tour, which I'm initially like, that tour's not going ahead, but it is for the 14th of November, so I guess event planners are figuring from mid-year there will be a morning after. I don't know who'll be there to work the lights, given that they won't have had income for 6 months, but you know. Okay, now we get on page 4 to the coronavirus news. Great. Gym's a cesspool. Subscribe for the latest news and free toilet paper. Well, it will give you a dirty bum, as I've shown with my hands in this series, but, you know, things get desperate. Right, the headline is, "We'll see you in spring." There's another one, New Zealand slams door, cruises canned. PM says live life normally. He reads the room so well, doesn't he? Australia's coronavirus outbreak could last for at least 6 months, according to Prime Minister Scott Morrison, but he urged Australians to go about their normal lives. The government's preparing for months and months of chaos and closures. Companies have been warned not to rip off travellers left stranded. This is under an insurance strap. Insurers have been told not to rip off customers forced to change travel plans due to the coronavirus. Assistant Treasurer Michael Sukar has met with insurance bosses to remind them of their duty to customers. There's been a steady rise of people contacting the ACCC about their refund rights. Right, so they're noting, as I just did on travel insurance, most travel insurance policies purchased after COVID-19 became a known event in January are unlikely to cover travellers who want to cancel their trips. Most standard insurance policies do not include cover for outbreaks such as epidemics and pandemics, leaving travellers out of pocket. I'm not sure what Michael Sukar wagging his finger at the insurance industry is going to do for someone stuck in Istanbul with the flights cancelled. Right, shoppers face harsh restrictions on many products after panic buying stripped shelves in several supermarkets. Coles, Woolworths and Aldi have all been forced to implement tight restrictions on long-life products and toiletries. Woolworths has implemented a 1 packet per person rule for products such as pasta, rice, toilet paper and facial tissues, while Aldi stores only allow people to buy a maximum of 10 cans of tuna, 2 packets of paper towels and 1 of toilet paper. Home delivery services are also experiencing a huge increase in demand. It is impossible to book a delivery within 3 days or even as long as 5 days in some areas. And then forced to full plug on Anzac and Vivid. Another 2 pages of coronavirus. NRL wants $200 million taxpayer bailout. What about the casuals who aren't getting any shifts? Let's find $200 million for the footy. It's what's important to us, obviously. Person who makes your coffee or pulls your beers. Never really were human, were they? To a lot of people. Online criminals are trying to cash in. Oh, it's an ill wind that blows no good, isn't it? I can't even bring myself to read the NRL's rent-seeking. The party is over at the track. Easter show, a $250 million blow. That's been cancelled. Right, we've got ads for Society One's low-rate personal loans and the Super Coach. That's a Fox thing. They're saying register your team for the football that isn't going to get played. It's funny how so many of these wheels just keep rolling, even though the wagon has ceased to move. A war cabinet to save us. He will not. Premier's plan to tackle spread of virus to include economic stimulus. Good. Hey, we've got a government ad about coronavirus. Full page. Look at that. Signed by Scott Morrison, Greg Hunt, and Professor Brendan Murphy, the Chief Medical Officer. Important information about coronavirus. I'm just going to read this. I think this is useful. Important information about coronavirus. As you will no doubt be aware, COVID-19, also known as coronavirus, has affected many around the world, including Australians both at home and overseas. COVID-19 is a new viral infection that can give people flu or cold-like symptoms, including sore throat, fever, cough, and shortness of breath. It can, however, have serious consequences for a percentage of cases, particularly the elderly and vulnerable. Although you may have heard a lot about this new virus in the news or online, it is important to keep up to date with information and advice provided by the official government sources, including by visiting health.gov.au, following the Australian Department of Health on social media, and via credible news sources. The Australian government has increased screening measures for international arrivals and banned non-Australian citizens arriving from highly affected countries. We strongly recommend that you reconsider your need to travel overseas and check smarttraveller.gov.au for the latest advice. If I may editorialise, I have literally cancelled my overseas holiday for the middle of the year because I can't be sure I'm not going to lose all my money on it. You can prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other respiratory infections by making sure you wash your hands frequently with soap and water, cover your cough, sneeze, and dispose of tissues. Avoid contact with others if you're feeling unwell. At this stage, you should only be tested for COVID-19 if you're experiencing flu or cold-like symptoms and have recently returned from overseas or have been in direct contact with someone who is known to have contracted coronavirus. Additional testing may also be appropriate for healthcare workers. If you start to develop symptoms, there are 4 ways you can receive medical assistance: your local GP, be sure to phone ahead, your local emergency department, and specific respiratory clinics currently being established around the country. Check your local government, so New South Wales, health.newsouthwales.nsw.gov.au. So state government or the ACT territory government health department website will list where the walk-in clinics are for the vast majority of people who don't actually have their own GP. And I know some GPs who don't feel they're very ready for this either. Specific respiratory clinics currently being established, or via telehealth, such as using your phone, Skype, or FaceTime. If you're unsure about what to do, call the Coronavirus Information Line on 1800 020 080. Australia has one of the best health systems in the world, with some of the most dedicated and experienced health professionals. Containing the spread of an infection like COVID-19 comes down to every Australian playing their part by looking after their own hygiene, looking out for each other, and staying informed. You can quibble on the details, but that's pretty sound. Just wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, and I hate to say it, the public gatherings are going to have to go for a while. It doesn't bring me any joy as we were going to party last night. I'm to go on holidays in June. The dogs, on the other hand, seem to be enjoyable. Mummy and Daddy are home all the time. Right, War Cabinet to save us. We've been through that. You can't be too careful with those Dutton germs. So they've got pictures of the cleaners in protective suits disinfecting everywhere Peter Dutton's been. Alright, Jack Morfitt tells us that gyms are the perfect place for the outbreak to build strength. Gym junkies have been told to go for a run and do push-ups at home as fitness centres are potential cesspools of coronavirus. Right, another full-page ad from the Australian government. Stay informed on coronavirus. Visit health.gov.au. Wash your hands, cover your sneeze, avoid contact with others if you're unwell. Okay, that's enough for coronavirus. Now we've got the Ibrahims. We do love talking about brown people committing crimes. Well, and I say we, I mean the Sunday Telegraph does. Michael Ibrahim was forced to attend a peace meeting with 3 Western Sydney crime kingpins to prevent an underworld war from erupting over $1 million drug smuggling operation. I guarantee it was more than $1 million. What, you think these people are fighting over the cost of a mid-range house? So at stake was an 800 kilogram MDMA shipment. Again, it's not $1 million drug smuggling operation. There's some more zeros in there. Apparently, tens of thousands of families are missing out on taxpayer-funded parental leave payments because the mother is the primary breadwinner. Well done, Australia. Right, now we have Holy High Rollers, 2 pages on Dollar Bill Song. How Sydney's mega church makes its mega millions. Verily we say, blessed are those who hand over wads of cash. Even the choir's lipstick is subject to commandments. Heaven on earth for the church pastors. Yeah, the people running the operation always do best, don't they? Okay, we're calling for laws to combat catfishing, which, fraud is already illegal. And then they've got a sad story of a woman who was brought in by a guy who said he looked like Channing Tatum. I think someone who's done a fair bit of online chatting and dating, including long distance stuff over the years, I just strongly say that there's enough people are online these days that stick to people who are local, and Ask them to meet up for a drink reasonably early in the piece. Apparently a robot's helped someone have an Aussie robot called Ivy has helped a IVF. There we go. I don't know what it's like in the newsroom writing these little local stories while the end of the world's going on and you're just doing that IVF round. Australia's scourge. This is domestic violence, not coronavirus. The Star Sydney's still advertising its Freshtival, which is a fresh lobster festival. Um, this is meant to be happening from 15th of March to 12th of April. Domestic violence is a scourge and is awful. I just fear this campaign's going to get lost. Right, apparently Darling Harbour's found its missing link. All these years they've been telling us it's perfect. This is the redevelopment of the Cockle Bay Park. It's going to include public space at least, so it's something. 2 pages of Harvey Norman. And then we've got sharks, the special report, hungry for a bite any time. And we've got maps of where sharks go. Why the great whites won't stay at Port Macquarie. Right, they're trying to figure out what about Port Macquarie the sharks don't like so they can replicate it. That's good. Drones will be keeping watch over our beaches because we don't want to pay for planes with people in them. Remember when I moved to a small South Coast town and what turned out to be the shark plane flew overhead while I was walking a dog on the beach and started doing barrel rolls, which I only learned after I left the beach later that indicated there was in fact a shark in the water. So could have with a little more public education that day, but no one died. Right, meagre savings leave us exposed. Yeah, crushing poverty does that, doesn't it? According to St George Bank, 1 in 5 households use credit to get by. More than that. It's not telling you surveys, are they? Start telling your bank you're in financial trouble and they start cutting back the access to credit you got. So there's a Border Collie Coolie Cross who's helping koalas. That's good. New South Wales Railway upgrade. Huawei was going to install infrastructure. That's worrying some people. Then we got 2 pages of League is back. The Revengers, the best grudge matches. Your world's ending too. The source is down to a thin half page. Right, there's some good stuff in here. After weeks of back and forth, it appears comedian Celeste Barber will not be able to direct some of the $52 million raised during the bushfire crisis to fire-ravaged communities. The cash bonanza has been transferred to the RFS and Brigade's Donations Fund. Rules governing the trust dictate that any money in the kitty must only be used to buy and maintain firefighting equipment and facilities, provide training resources and cover administrative expenses. Even the commissioner's embarrassed by it and has been trying to get the rules changed. That's the nature of your fundraising appeals. Think carefully, I guess. The Kiama Curse. I'm just going to read this. Gareth Ward, who we're about to discuss, I encountered early in his career, and he was certainly a very colourful character in Shoalhaven politics, I can tell you. Kiama Curse. There must be something in the water in Kiama. Long before family minister Gareth Ward below was found wandering naked and confused around a unit block in Potts Point last week, the Kiama MP's predecessor Matt Brown was busted dancing on a parliamentary couch in his underpants on budget night. While Brown, who was police minister at the time, denied reports he'd also straddled a fellow MP's breast during the incident, he admitted he had made a mistake. While Brown lost his job, Ward has been spared, with Premier Gladys Berejiklian standing by yet another troubled minister. In his statement, Ward blamed being placed under general anaesthetic that day for a medical procedure for becoming disorientated. So I think he's blaming the procedure was not for the disorientation, it was created the disorientation. The incident comes 3 years after Ward was targeted in a bizarre New York massage scam where he booked an online service only to have 2 young men turn up to his hotel threatening to blackmail him. Interesting thing about Gareth as well is he looks like he's about 70 years old, and he's a lot younger. He's a lot younger than he looks. It seems Police Minister David Elliott will forever regret uploading pictures of himself on Facebook with a firearm. Senior prison sources have noted that the long line of former corrections ministers, ministerial staff and Sydney journalists that have lined up to fire guns, now potentially illegally on the range. The Cell, so the real estate celebrity shit. Clavelli home sells for $7 million. Isn't that good for them? Gone a ways without coffee here. Apparently, Borkham Hills is hot real estate. So, Westpac's survey shows that young people are starting work a year earlier than their parents did because families are much poorer and they need to get them earning money. Right, so apparently Lisa Stockbridge, who was jailed for dealing cocaine, this is the snitch, the Law and Order gossip, she says no to plastic bags and non-organic food. The one-time socialite and publicist who was jailed after police busted her running a cocaine delivery service to clients in the eastern suburbs is out of jail and trying her hand at a new trade. It's in line with the voguish organic food movement. And Tanya Smith is a new senior Crown prosecutor. Right, 2-page advertising feature from Pet Barn. You'll be spending a lot of time with your dogs, which is good. There's a thing, I don't know what it is. It looks a bit like an ad. It's full of events that aren't going to happen. Right, now the sports section has a headline strapped, "Coronavirus Explained, How the Pandemic Affects Your Games." Call it off now, says Wayne Bennett. North Queensland captain Michael Morgan is urging the NRL to postpone the season. Right, the alarm bell rings why the Tokyo Games must be put on hold. I don't think that I've made a decision yet on that, but it's, they're talking about postponing for a year. Oof. AFL clubs face huge cost-cutting measures. The A-League between a rock and a hard place. And then back to normal sports reporting. Sunday punter. Escape. Oh, holidays this year. Experience the wonders of your own backyard, where at least you can't get travel banned yet. I'd just like to note, for the benefit of viewers, particularly ones who've made it this far, who are obviously the real deal, in Italy with the complete lockdown, which is pretty much the worst case scenario we might face, and I'm not even saying we're going to get to that, I'm just saying it's in the worst case scenario, you are still allowed to go out and buy groceries. So it's not like you're going to have to do the whole 3 weeks. Just, wear a face mask and wash your hands and try not to get coughed on by anyone while you're at the shops. And apparently in Italy they haven't gone to contactless payment in a big way yet, so they're still having to physically swipe their cards. So washing your credit cards has become a thing. Anyway. For those of us who aren't casuals, the world won't end immediately, although the flow-on effects are going to hurt everyone. And I'm so sorry for everyone who is trying to make a living as a casual. I don't mean to make light of your situation. I mean, if the government's not going to step in and do something on that, like real soon, that doesn't require a 13-week process of going through New Start, then we're probably going to need some sort of charity operation where people can donate portions of their own income to support those without them, which is kind of what taxes are meant to do. Okay, world news. Europe trying to rebuild borders. Yeah. All right, how China turned the tide against the coronavirus. There's a cute video of all the nurses taking off their face masks in one of the temporary hospitals. They did it with a very significant lockdown, mind you. And you've still got to manage the infection after the lockdown, depending on how many people have got it. Right, we're not to blame, US. The US has found itself struggling on two fronts. Spooks are accusing each other of starting the thing. Certainly the way Iran and China got slugged does make you wonder. But, I'd need to see more evidence before I embrace that theory. And then the Americans are saying the Chinese did it to damage the American economy, which if the Chinese done it, they wouldn't have started in Wuhan, would they? Yeah, the issue in America is there are only just around 1 million hospital beds in the whole country. And, of course, most people can't afford healthcare on a good day. Because their stupid, cruel system. Right, Iraq is blowing up over American airstrikes. Iraq has warned that US airstrikes that hit pro-Iranian militia in Baghdad, killing 6, including 1 civilian, risk sparking a much wider conflict. And then they've gone to the big picture, a moderately photogenic British Lance Corporal. There she is with a cocktail of some sort. Has died, and that's, I guess if you've got a low-cut top and a toothy smile. Right, the push for attacks on the internet's giants' ads. So News Limited has always been obsessed with Facebook and Google stealing what they viewed was their money. It's just in the state senate in Maryland. Not sure where that's going. Bernie's not going viral anymore. That's a terrible headline. Oh, because Bernie's not able to do his huge rallies. Yeah, it's going to be hard to see how this shakes out, but calls for universal healthcare might become increasingly popular. You never know. Scott Pape, the barefoot investor, tells us how lucky he is that he spends his time on his farm with his family. Peter Credlin says, we are facing the forgotten truth of life and death. It was a historic move by the Prime Minister on Friday to set up a new National Cabinet Committee to manage the coronavirus. Really, tough action, set up a committee. The new committee made up of the PM, state premiers and territory chief ministers will be established with all the rules and processes of federal cabinet, so it's all confidential. Oh God, it reduces the opportunity that some premiers might try and play politics as happened over summer. It was more Scott Morrison trying to play politics, as I recall. It wasn't that long ago. I think my recollection's pretty good. In the end, government can only do so much, says Peter. Leaving aside Peter Credlin telling us that we should just accept our deaths, we have a thumbs up for Alan Joyce, who's taking a serious pay cut as part of corona-induced cutbacks at Qantas. More CEOs should follow to keep their much lower-paid workers in a job. The real contagion is recession. As usual, there's some sort of point in what she's saying. She just makes it in a horrible way and uses it to do horrible things. Thumbs down to all the haters who want to politicise coronavirus. Take a lead from Anthony Albanese, who says Labor will do whatever is needed to help the Morrison government to help Australians. I think she wrote that before Saturday's accusations started flying around with Peter Dutton not following the same rules the rest of us do. Apparently footy stars are failing us. This is the Bulldogs players having sex with the schoolgirls they went to have a school visit with, who were apparently of legal age as far as I can tell. Claire Harvey says schoolgirls can't consent. She's not impressed. I think parents in general are pretty unimpressed. Piers Ackerman. Oh, damn it. Every now and then he says something I agree with. So he says we must thoroughly wash our hands of the French submarine contract. The Virginia-class attack submarines are the gear we need, so American submarines instead of French submarines. They're both nuclear submarines, and there's no way to make them work without nuclear power, which ties us into all sorts of things we've never been tied into. It's a weird reason to get into the nuclear industry. Economies globally have taken a big hit, says Piers, but we're in better shape than most because Josh Frydenberg was trying to return the budget to surplus. How do we recover? Here's a quick solution. There's a win-win. Torpedo the delusional submarine contract with the French immediately. Even if it costs us the $1 billion estimated in the short term, it would be money well spent, recoverable long term. The deal was a lose-lose except for the French from the outset, and here's how we got into it. This is just Piers has been paid by the Americans who want to sell us their submarines to say this. Whatever we do, we need a design that's been built from the ground up to be non-nuclear, unless we're deciding we're going to build a nuclear industry in Australia, for which I would argue submarines are a poor rationale. Right, editorial says, best we forget the dawn service. That's almost a funny headline. Well done, Sunday Telegraph. There's often more sanity on the editorial page than on the rest of the newspaper. I think that they sort of try to make up for it. So the Telegraph is castigating the New South Wales government for not doing its cabinet yesterday instead of today. I think governments are going to get a lot of that. Must be end times because the Warren cartoon is almost funny, featuring Tom Hanks seeing Peter Dutton in the isolation ward, Hank Wilson, as if he's the volleyball from that movie Tom Hanks was in that he only had a volleyball for a friend that I can't remember the name of right now, and it doesn't really matter. Okay, we're coming down the home straight, folks. Just see what the movie reviews have got to say, because streaming video. You're going to see if the NBN holds up. That's going to be quite exciting as the entire country sits down to watch streaming video. Okay, who rules in the post-Megxit world? Kerry Parnell writes the Royal Handbook has gone out the window. Apparently Naomi Campbell's flying in a hazmat suit. Westworld star admits he is terrified by the future it depicts. If anyone could watch season 2 of Westworld, I'd doff my lid to them. That was some turgid stuff. Duncan Lay says it's not scary until we start turning into zombies. Well, wait till the lights and the food run out. Carl is focused on the future, which is as well because he's not doing a very good job in the present. And it's Sharp says Ryan Stoke it's his turn to use his head over his heart. Okay, so Ryan Stokes, of course, is Kerry Stokes' son, who's the billionaire who owns Channel 7 and largely uses it to protect his real fossil fuel interests. So that's why Channel 7's putting fascists on breakfast TV, if you haven't twigged to that. And the fact that they see the rise of One Nation and nativist fascist politics as being essential to the preservation of their oil interests, there's an interesting link that still looks a bit hazy, but it's there. So back in 2009, Kerry reportedly counselled his son, heir to his $5 billion fortune, to dump his troubled girlfriend Jodie Gordon, star of the media family's TV drama Home and Away, after the actor, that's Jodie Gordon, embarrassed the media proprietor when she was discovered holed up in the Sydney unit of a suspected Rebels bikie member following a lost weekend of hard partying. Does sound like fun. So Ryan broke up with her. I'm not quite sure where they're getting to here. It appears that Ryan wants to sell the TV station. Yes, that's what we're trying to get to. I'm not quite sure why we had to mention that Dad made him break up with his girlfriend a decade ago, but Kerry is reluctant to sell. Okay, well, we'll see what comes of that. Kerry won't live forever, I hope. 2GB has ordered Jones and Hadley into isolation to guard against coronavirus. I mean, if you can keep your radio stars healthy, it's going to have big audiences. People tuning in for news-like content. And hello, all my new viewers. And so we come to the back page, which is Foxtel. Interesting, they're selling Westworld, Joker, and The Crown, which, remember, Netflix sort of shows on Foxtel in a weird way now. And the Telstra Premiership, which I guess they did the ad a while ago. All right, folks, we're done here. Big takeaways. Stay calm. Don't buy more than you need. Wash your hands. Let's put wash your hands up above stay calm. Okay? Wash your hands even if you're not calm. Try and stay calm. Maybe buy a newspaper, just in case the bog roll runs out. Books. Start making a list of the authors that you think you don't need in your life. Anyway, thank you to everyone who's made it all the way through. I think these glasses are throwing funny shadows. Well, they might not be back next week. That's all right. I truly appreciate everyone who's made it through to the end of the video. I hope you stay safe and you're all back next week while we explore the Sunday Telegraph. All right, toodle pip.